Where is my phone?
Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Where is your phone? I don't know. You want me to call it?
Oh,
It's
here
right
it is.
there. It's hidden. Good to
Oh,
see
goodness
everybody.
gracious.
Welcome. It's Tuesday. So glad that you're joining us for Daily Time with God. We are in a series that's been on Elijah, but today we're going to see the handoff from Elijah to Elisha. So if you join us like tomorrow and people miss it, they're going to be like, they're saying Elijah funny. It's a different person.
Right, different.
So we'll try to clue you into that. But so glad that you're here. We have been in this series for several weeks now, and it's been paralleling the weekend series that we were doing called It's Fine. We just finished that series this last weekend talking about I'm just busy, like isn't that just an excuse that, I've never made, but I've heard people make it, honestly.
Other people.
Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna finish off this series this week, and then we've got baptism weekend coming up, which is awesome. Which leads me to this screen right behind me. That if you are looking for a kind of next step here at Eastern Hills, and maybe at some point you made a decision to follow Jesus, and you're like, okay, what's the next step for me? Well, an amazing next step, if you've never taken it, is to get baptized, which is this act that makes our personal faith public. We say it around here all the time. Personal faith will bring you to heaven, but public faith actually brings heaven here. And you get to celebrate. We get to celebrate with you this really cool thing. We're actually doing it a little bit different this weekend too, which will be fun. So would love to have you check that out. If you are thinking about it or you know somebody that is, steer them right here to ehills.org/weekend. They can click on baptism and check it out.
Yes, and there's actually a gal who watches Daily Time with God when she can, who's getting baptized this weekend. So super excited for her. We've been able to do that a couple times, and it's just been so fun when we know you and we get to.
Well, DTWG BAPTISM.
That was a lot.
Yep. I was like, do I have it? Got it. We got there. So anyway, super fun. Would love to have you check that out with us this weekend. I came from a meeting, so if you're like, doesn't feel like he's got his stuff together like he normally does.
Yeah, we don't.
I do not. So I'm
sure don't.
Figuring it out. We're getting it sorted out. Thanks to Cameron, by the way, who made all of this. Like yesterday afternoon when I was in here, there was going to be some work to get it from where it was to this. So thank you, Cameron, who is sleeping right now.
Well, Crystal was here yesterday morning, our executive producer.
Oh, there we go.
And she was here for Bible study, but then I gave her a little tour of kind of the behind the scenes stuff. And she was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. Cause all you see is like this just little section. But
right. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a whole thing. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's good. It's fun. So anyway, every day that we're together, we get started with a question of the day. And so our question today is, what's your, it's snowed, not even all the snow from the last couple snowstorms have melted, which is pretty unique here in Colorado. It's one of the things I love about Colorado, actually, is that snow goes away pretty fast. And we're about to get some more of it tonight. So anyway, it felt like a good time to ask about vacations.
Yeah.
So you tell us, what is your favorite vacation spot and why? Drop that in the chat. You got one for us?
Well, I don't know if it's actually a spot. I love going on cruises.
I knew this was going to be your answer.
Right?
Yeah.
Wherever that cruise is going, I'm here for it.
Yeah. We've never been on a cruise. Seems super fun.
It's amazing. And honestly, if you know my husband even like a tiny bit, you're like, he likes that? It's crazy. But we are supposed to go on one in July with my family. We're going to Alaska.
Nice. That'll be fun. Is it a Disney one or a different one? Nice.
Yeah, and my sister and her family. So we'll see if that happens. But seriously, wherever that ship is going, I am all in.
Did you hear Denver is like saying that they're not going to extend the mask mandate?
I did.
Which just feels like, what?
Weird.
That feels
like they did this the last time. It felt premature. It was like, can you maybe wait like a month and just like let it? But
cutting the cord.
Here we are.
Grip it and rip it, everybody. I feel like if Denver's doing it, I think we just all go back to normal. I think that's what it is.
I don't think COVID exists anymore.
Yeah, it's done. It's fine.
Yeah.
We're joking right now. Joking. So if you're offended by that.
My body would say COVID exists. I think I've got like the long COVID that just lingers.
Just hanging around.
Yeah.
Is it like brain fog or
a little bit of brain fog, but it's mostly like in my chest.
Yeah.
Like it's just this tightness. I feel like I told Anthony the other day, I was like, I don't feel like I've taken a deep breath in like a month. And he was like, well, like take some time off and take a nap or whatever. I was like, no, like I can't breathe. I physically cannot
it's not
breathe.
Like metaphorical.
Right.
Yeah. That's too bad. That's too bad. Well, sorry to hear that.
Here it is. But anyway.
I do like that you said brain frog. That felt very appropriate.
Right on.
Very
right on.
Yeah.
I didn't even practice that.
No, it's great. It's good. Well, let's see what some of our friends have here for us. Linda, good morning. Florida on the beach and Colorado in the mountains. And of course, my daughter, Christina, and her family. Oh, that's sweet.
I knew the right answer was where my mom is.
Yeah. No, it's all right. You got to be honest,
She doesn't watch.
Crystal, our executive producer, good to see you. Glad you've seen some behind the scenes looks around here. Pam, good morning. Good to see you. Crystal even dropped in that link for you guys. Thanks for doing that.
Yep.
Tex, good morning. Welcome. Good to see you. Christina over on YouTube, good morning. Oh, by the way, I think our face and lips and audio are synced. So let us know if that's working for you. That was what he was doing.
Got it.
Fixing that. So that I should have finished that explanation.
That's okay. I probably interrupted.
We had no way. I doubt that highly. It was the brain frog. So let us know. That should be fixed. We had some issues where our audio sync was off last week. You don't care why, but anyway. Good morning, friends. I love a vacation anywhere that helps me get into nature, hopefully with some water, rivers, lake, ocean. I'm not picky. Bonus points for historical interest points in the area. See, for me, I would say ocean for sure. And I would say bonus points for really good Mexican food near the ocean. That's the combination for me.
Before I knew this was actually a dirty term, I always thought cake by the ocean sounded good. But then my kids told me, I don't know either. Oh. They won't even say it.
Look, don't say that anymore.
Don't say that anymore.
Neither one of us know. So
yeah, I don't know. And you don't need to tell me. Yeah, I'm good.
Nobody Google it. Nobody Google it.
I'm good in the brain frog here. Yeah. Okay.
Let's make that a term.
It's a thing now.
Pam, yachting on ocean. It's so serene and fun exploring new towns along the way. I like yachting. That sounds fun.
Have you ever done that?
No, 0%. I've been on a bass boat. Does that count? I've been on a bass boat in a lake.
Huh. No, I think they're
as
different.
far as I've gone. Stephanie, Breckenridge. I love hiking in the mountains. It's our home away from home spot. Breckenridge is so fun. Yeah. We did a wedding there this summer. Not this week, this summer. And it was like, it was so, we've heard people talk about it. Sonia and Kendall, they have a place up there, like a timeshare place. Yep. And just really, really cool. I did like some runs down there. And it's just the fact that like, that's so close to where we live is just silly.
And that's, I think, one of the things I like about Breckenridge. It doesn't feel like it's too commercialized, even though it's on its way.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And it's not too far away.
Yeah. It's good. Greg, good morning. Good to see you. Welcome. Haven't done it yet, but Bora Bora would be awesome. That sounds super fun. Go do it. Tell us how it goes. Robert over on YouTube. Morning, everyone. My wife and I love to go to Park City, Utah in the summer. We love to mountain bike down the mountains up there. Harrowing and so much fun. Does that sound fun to you?
No.
So a good buddy of mine in Seattle, actually, we were texting maybe over the weekend, and he's a big mountain bike guy, and he's looking at some stuff in Colorado. Yeah. And he's like, hey, if I came and did this, would you do it with me? And it's like a week-long mountain bike excursion.
Yeah.
Seems pretty cool.
My brother-in-law, he used to do that. He would mountain bike up, what's the big mountain in Seattle?
Rainier.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then he would just go like straight down.
Yeah.
Like that was.
Oh yeah. That's the thing.
I don't do that.
Yeah, it's dicey.
Here's the deal though. I was riding my stationary bike yesterday in Norway, and we had some pretty steep hills.
That's good.
Yeah, that we were going up and down.
I don't think it quite works the same way, but you do.
My RPMs were pretty fast.
Crystal, off-roading backcountry is pretty limited right now in the Rocky Mountains. Only the lower altitude trailheads are not snowed in. So we had to divide Colorado west of Colorado Springs to escape urban life. Yeah, I've done are you talking about like on a four-wheeler and stuff? Because I've done that one time. And if Chance is watching, he would tell you I bent his tie rod while I was doing that. Like on a route, it wasn't lack of skill. It just was a thing that happens. And I think he'd let me go again, but he's not going to like invite me. And because I did that, I'm not going to ask. So we've been in this like chicken or the egg thing here for a couple years. Yeah. But it was really fun.
For a couple years.
Yeah. Greg, pretty much anywhere there's a beach and good diving. It's good. That's good. Dennis, what's up? Good to see you. Good morning. Hey, this says synced and looks and sounds great. Oh, thanks.
Do you want to know something else? Crystal sent me some information about herself, and I learned that she actually has done deep sea diving.
Really? I mean, like not surprised.
Scuba diving.
She probably has a degree. She's like Jack Cousteau, as well as everything else.
Like I just love when you think you know. Like I've known Crystal for a long time, and I know a lot about her. Yeah. And I was like, I still have things to learn.
Don't underestimate her. No. Amanda, anywhere I can spend the day by the pool, taking it easy and relaxing, and then go out at night is my speed. I am super social and want as many people with me as possible. My whole family will go places together, or even going to Iowa can be fun when we are with a bunch of friends. I'm not really on board with Iowa. I can't. That's not a thing.
It's actually very beautiful.
Sounds great. But the Olsen clan will go to Vegas, and those sound like I don't think I can hang with them for a whole trip. But to like go there, fly in for just a few hours with them and hang out and just like see what it's like, I'm genuinely curious about that. It feels crazy. So, Peggy, morning. Love a vacation where I can see historical places. Look at that. We got a couple people in that camp. Amanda, cake.
She did exactly what we asked her not to do.
Oh, no.
Now I know
now
things.
You know. It's... Oh,
the whole song is ruined. Actually, it was ruined when I heard the edit.
There's a song?
Oh, yeah. Cake by the Ocean. It's a song. It is a great, like the tune is so fun and I love it. But I was listening to it and I didn't have the radio edit version. I was like, what do you mean they don't go crazy? Like my whole life is just falling apart.
Yep. Well,
but
coming down.
I guess that's what happens when you get 40s.
That's what happens. Yep. Robert, I don't know yet because I'm only 30.
I know you.
I'll tell you.
Thank you.
There. Yeah. Ocean is terrifying. I got, what is that? Basilophobia?
Oh.
Well, that seems like a word I need to Google.
It's probably fear of the ocean. Who are we looking at? Because I don't see
it's over on YouTube.
Gotcha.
It's our man Robert. Let's see. Yeah, fear of the deep ocean. Look at that.
There it is.
Way to go. I have a fear of words that are hard to spell or understand, and I just walked right into that. So
I don't think I would like that either, actually. Yeah. I like the ocean, but I like mid-ocean.
Nice. It's good. We got a couple new people chiming in. Hopefully they're not spammers, but Musisi in Uganda. What's up? Welcome. PETA, good morning. We went to Florida Keys and it's beautiful. I would love to go there again. Like, we haven't heard from PETA before.
Oh, no, but the Florida Keys, holy smokes, they are stunning.
I've never been.
My mom and I drove. My mom is terrified of heights, but we drove from Miami to Key West.
Yeah.
And then back. And she could not handle, because you're driving over the ocean. And she was like this in the passenger seat, like as far over as she could. And then on the way back, she's like, I'm driving, because she didn't want to be on the ocean side.
She understands that a little bit further into the car, if something happens, it does not matter what seat you're in.
She gets irrational.
Yeah.
And no, I don't think she recognized that fact.
Sure. Becky,
she was willing to sacrifice me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll just shove you out.
It's fine.
Becky, good morning. Beach, anywhere the water is warm, I can snorkel, not see a ton of people, and can sit on the beach all day. I want to go to San Vincent Petit in the Grenadines. That sounds awesome.
Yes,
sounds amazing. Leslie, morning. Cruising anywhere in the Caribbean. Our favorite spot has been Barbados and St. Thomas. The beaches are white sand with crystal clear waters. We got to swim with sea turtles and snorkel around the reefs the last time we went. It was so fun. That's really fun.
Have you ever gone snorkeling?
I have. Yeah.
We went snorkeling, but Anthony doesn't wear contacts, and so he couldn't see anything in his snorkel mask.
He's like, it was very murky.
He did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
He couldn't see anything, and he was like, this is stupid.
Yeah. It's good. Well, thanks for telling us. If maybe you were wondering, where should I go for vacation next? Now you've got some suggestions, some things to chase down. If I seem a little distracted today, my car delivery window started on Sunday, which was a big deal. And then yesterday it got moved back 2 weeks. So
it did get moved back.
I kind of knew. I have a buddy that is in the same situation, and the same thing happened to him. And so I was sort of prepared for it, but it's still, when you've been waiting 6 months for a car, you're like, can we just? But I talked to the company and they were like, actually, your car is being made right now. So that feels encouraging.
How long does it take to make? 2 weeks?
Less. They said I think it's like a week and a half.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
Wow. Okay.
So,
well.
Yep. Yeah, that's amazing. Robert, hippopotamus, a lot of the things. The fear of long words. There you go, Phil. Thank you so much. I'll copy.
He's always got your back.
I'll copy and paste that.
Yeah,
Robert.
that's incredible. That's a good guy right there.
Appreciate the hookup for sure. Well, hey, again, just a reminder, if you're looking for a next step, you can always find it at ehills.org/weekend. So fun. We had literally dozens of people dozens of families that decided to start recurring their giving this weekend, which may sound not that exciting to you. But we talked about really the value of what Jesus says, right? Wherever your treasure is, that's where your heart really is, and sort of prioritizing what it means to be generous. Not for us from a place of like, oh my gosh, if you don't do this, we're going out. It's, going out of business. Doors are going to shut. That's not the case at all. We're so thankful for the generosity, but we really want people to take steps of faith. And so it's kind of a part of our regular rhythm to talk about it in January. Thanks to those of you who took that step.
Yep.
And then I think the next thing we're going to talk about probably is 3-2-1 group launch.
Yes.
If you're not in community and you want to get in one, it's kind of a way for you to try it before you buy it with community groups.
Yes. And I will say we had our first Cultivate meeting last Wednesday night, Family Cultivate. Oh my goodness. It was so fun. Just the energy in the room. We had tables that were just full of people, didn't know each other when they walked in and walked out as friends, even just after one meeting. So it was just really cool to see kind of that first step in. And this is going to be something very similar, just that taste of community to help you recognize that we're not designed to do life alone, and life is always better when we are together with other people.
For sure. So in just a second, we'll pray, and then we'll give you a little bit of a breakdown if you are new to the study of Elijah and Elisha today. And then we'll dive in. We have a lot of passage today.
Lots of passage.
And then in the past, what we've done is we have read all the way through the passage today. We're going to chop it up, which has the chance that we're going to leave you unsatisfied. We're going to leave you with some homework. So potentially
that's okay.
You'll be fine. It's going to be great.
It's just like Alexander Hamilton. You'll just never be satisfied.
It's a song reference from the musical
Hamilton.
Yep. Got it. Maisie got a little book for her 10th birthday that's for little kids explaining Hamilton.
Yeah.
And she's like, they do a lot to explain away the inappropriate parts.
There you go.
Sounds right.
My daughter found a book. We were at Barnes & Noble this weekend. She found a book called Alex and Eliza.
Oh, yeah.
So they've taken their story
That's
and
cool.
made it into a teenager's love delight.
I mean, that sounds about right.
Right?
Yep.
She's loving it.
Yep. It's good. All right. Well, before we get started, we should pray for us.
Feels like that. We should. God, thank you so much for this morning, and thank you just for who you are. I thank you that you are constant, even when everything around us seems a little crazy. I pray today that as we are reading more about Elijah, that you would help us see that even in his shortcomings and even in the places where he is struggling, you are still there and you still make ways. God, I pray that you would lead us and guide us, that you would give us wisdom, and that you would be with us in our conversations. We love you and pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. So somebody's jumping in with us today for the very first time. What the heck are we talking about?
You have homework. No.
Yep.
So Elijah is a prophet, and he was on the scene when the kings were still reigning in Israel. He is the prophet to a king named Ahab, who is a very evil king. And what we saw was that God was speaking through his prophet Elijah to the king, and he was saying, I don't like what you're doing. I don't like the way that you're leading this country away from me, the one true God. I'm going to send a drought for what we find out to be about 3 years. And then Elijah takes off and he's like, this is scary. I did what you said and now I don't want to be here anymore. And God's like, that's okay. I'm going to provide for you. And so he does. And then we see God speak to Elijah again. He's like, I need you to go back to the king and I need you to tell him that the drought's going to be over, but he's got to turn his heart a little bit. And so Elijah goes. They do this American Idol for who's the best prophet. And Elijah won. And his God, as opposed to the gods of Baal or the prophets of Baal, God shows up. He consumes everything, not only the sacrifice, but the stones, the water, and everything else that was there. And then he sends rain. Elijah, I think, thought hey, I'm probably in good standing with the king now. Well, come to find out, he still wasn't. And his wife, Jezebel, also hated him. So now there's just this crazy tension. Some stuff has happened since we left off there. And I believe, if I am remembering correctly, has Ahab died by now?
I don't remember. Actually.
Nope, he's not died yet. Okay. Sorry, spoiler alert. We're skipping that part completely. But if you want to read about it, it's really cool. His blood gets lapped up by dogs. And then Jezebel falls out a window and she gets eaten by dogs.
Really cool.
There's just a lot of I remember I was teaching it in the preteen room one day and I was like, read it. It's in the Bible. And every fifth grade boy is like, what do you mean? I mean, it's this crazy story that just shows that God is, just so big and so powerful, and he brings justice.
God had told Elijah last week that it was coming, but it has not happened yet. That's, I think, the sequence in the story.
Yes. So if you want to know more, continue to finish 1 Kings and then read 2 Kings 9. It's grody.
Check it out.
Perfect. But if you have a 5th grade boy, he's going to love it.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. So we're going to read the first section of our passage today, right here in 1 Kings 19, 19 through 21. The call of Elisha by Elijah says, so he departed from there and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen in front of him, and he was with the 12th. Elijah passed by him and cast his cloak upon him. And he left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, let me kiss my father and mother, and then I will follow you. And he said to him, go back again, for what have I done? What have I done to you? And he returned from following him and took the yoke of oxen and sacrificed them and boiled their flesh with the yokes of the oxen and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he arose and went after Elijah and assisted him. So obviously we're going to need some unpacking here.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Okay. So the first thing I hope that you notice here is Elijah. This is not normally how he would pass the torch. A prophet normally, if you're calling someone to kind of follow in your footsteps, you are anointing them with oil. You are setting like your cloak upon them and really handing the mantle over. We don't see that here. We see a very passive aggressive Elijah wander by Elisha, who's plowing his fields, toss his cloak at him, and just keep walking.
Amazing. You know what it reminds me of is like in movies when people are getting their car valeted, but they're like in a hurry, so they just like throw the keys. Tommy Boy's like one of my favorite movies, and he does this to like just a beat up old hoopty in an area that I don't think was even a valet, and he just throws the keys to the guys, and he's like, keep it. And I just feel like Elijah like throws the cloak at Elisha, and he's like, it's yours now. Like, I'm done. It's pretty amazing.
And the way that Elisha, I almost messed that one up. The way that he responds is also incredible, because he responds with great faith and trust. And he recognizes that this is it is a big deal.
Right.
And so his response is to stop what he's doing, to leave everything that he has, and to go after Elijah. And then he says something interesting. And we see this happen with Jesus one time, and it's a different outcome. But he says, let me kiss my mother and my father, and I will follow you. And Elijah's response is, go back to your life. What have I done for you?
Right.
And so there really is still like this dismissiveness. And part of me wonders, is Elijah remembering all that he has suffered? And there's a part of him that's like, I don't want to pass this off to anybody.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you definitely can tell he's running out of gas.
He's not into this at all.
He is older for sure. He's gone through some like unbelievably difficult seasons of life and ministry. And he's out of gas. Yeah. And the number of times he's had to like run and flee for his life, survive on little to nothing, stand on the altar that God consumes in flames. Like, those will age you quick. Yeah. And so I think for him, there was, whether it was like he was genuinely looking out for Elisha, or he was just like, dude, do whatever you want. There just was this, this kind of overwhelmedness that I think he was dealing with for sure. So, yeah.
I think it's cool too. You pulled it out last week, but I think it's worth noting what their different names mean. So Elijah means the Lord, he is God. And I think we saw that show up in the life of Elijah and in his ministry, that God is who he says he is. He's powerful. He is almighty. Like I said, he is a God of justice and also a God of mercy and grace. I mean, he extended great mercy, not only to Elijah, but also to the people of Israel. And then we see Elisha's name means God saves. And we're going to see that play. Well, we won't, because we don't have enough time, but that will play out in Elisha's life, who God is and how he uses Elisha in those ways.
And so much of what God does in our life is seasonal, and we see that in spades in the life of Israel. You see time after time after time that you have setbacks that seem like setbacks to the people, but really God is setting them up for something bigger, right? And so the ministry that God does through Elisha would not have been possible without Elijah. And so I think sometimes I think sometimes in the context of this and the challenges that we face in life, it's easy to dismiss the challenges we face, but actually oftentimes the successes that we have wouldn't have been possible without the challenges.
Yeah. So. And I think Hebrews 11 is one of those passages where you read it and you just recognize the shoulders of the giants that our faith has been built upon.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So all that's happening, you find him go back, and then what does he do?
So he sacrifices the oxen. And the first time I was reading this, I missed how many that was.
Yeah.
It's 12.
And they're like not small.
They're not small. And this would have been his livelihood. And so there is something here that may point to some of Elisha's wealth, the fact that he had that many oxen that he used to plow his land. But he sacrifices everything. It's almost like this putting to death the life that he had and making room for the life that God is now preparing him and calling him into.
And I think, there is definitely, I'm sure you guys have heard the phrase before, like burn the bridges, right? There's definitely like a burn the bridges kind of vibe here. And, the people that he's feeding, they're certainly tremendously thankful for this, because just a reminder, they're all just coming out of like a massive drought. Right. And, like that brought famine, that brought a depression economically, like everything was linked to rain. And so that was a part of it. But I do think that it was like, how do I make sure I don't? Because it was very clear that Elisha knew what it meant when a prophet did that. Like, right. I'm next man up, right? And not a young man like Elijah isn't. So there's probably some of that too, where people were anticipating the next person to take over was going to be tapped. So all that is taking place. And I do think that there is, to a certain extent, probably something many of us, and we've asked similar questions to this before, where we've had to say like, hey, what does it cost you? Right. We talked about this weekend when Jesus says, if anyone wants to come after me, they should die to themselves, take up their cross and follow me daily. Right. And so that, like, what does it mean to die to yourself? What have you had to put to death? What have you had to deal with? What are some things that you maybe now in hindsight, you go, yeah, that just couldn't be a thing anymore. So I even asked in the chat, what was something you've had to give up to follow Jesus? Maybe that was when you initially chose to follow Jesus. Maybe that's been something along the way where you've just seen these kind of paths develop, and well, if I want to continue to be faithful to follow Jesus, this is clearly the path that I'm going to be on. And it means I can't do that. I can't necessarily pursue that. I can't. And I think those are important paths and kind of forks in the road to remember, because it's easy to slip back into stuff we know is not healthy for us. So anyway, Robert, I was thinking the same thing on YouTube. He says, does this point forward to when Jesus called his disciples to leave their work and lives to come follow him? I think it does. And I also think when Jesus does it, he doesn't let them go back. If you'll remember, literally there's one point where somebody's like, let me go bury my dad. And Jesus is like, let the dead bury the dead. Yeah. Like, come on. And I mean, there's work if you do that. Yeah. People are like, we're not sure he's dead yet. What he might have been asking is like, can I just go hang with my dad for the rest of his life?
Or he could have been dead. And the burial process was a year-long process where they would entomb the body and let it decompose completely. And then they would go and collect the bones, and then they would bury the bones. And so was he just waiting for the body to decompose? And, and Jesus is like, we're not waiting for that. That's going to happen.
Yep. So anyway, yes, I do think that parallel exists here, Robert. That's a good observation. Can you think of something, Lisa, whether it's like early on or more contemporaneously, where you'd go, yeah, this is something that clearly this was a fork in the road, and following Jesus meant not doing, not having, not pursuing?
Very generally, I would say this happens to me regularly with people and plans, where I'm in relationships with people, and then I have to either sacrifice those, or God's like, actually, since you are not doing what I'm asking you to do, I am just uprooting and removing.
Sure.
And that is worse, I will say. And then plans, when you think you're on one path And then all of a sudden God's like, no, I'm steering you in a different direction. But for me, I was dating a guy really seriously in college. And we graduated and we had plans and, we're starting to move forward with all of that. And then it just became very clear that that was not the path that God was putting me on. And I held on to it as long as I could and ended up hurting him and hurting other relationships in the process because I wasn't listening. I wasn't obedient. I think I've said it before. Like, I didn't even ask God. I was like, I actually don't want to hear what you have to say about this. And so I'm just moving forward because this is a good plan. It makes sense. And it wasn't his plan. So
and I think that's often what we do, right? We kind of know what God might say. So we're just like, what if I just don't talk to you about it?
Yeah.
Is that cool? And I think for me, I reflect back on the last couple of years, and I think one of the things that it would have been really easy to do, candidly, in the last couple of years is leave Eastern Hills. I'm just going to be honest. There were opportunities to go other places, and just the sheer pain of it. And the lie is that it would have been better there. It's not, right? The grass is greener where you water it. And we really felt called by God, and do feel called to be at Eastern Hills. And so this is not like an announcement or anything, but I think it would have been very easy in my own flesh to be like, well, that seems like a easier setup, better situation. Less people are mad at me, at least right now, until they get mad at me for something I do 2 months in, because I'm probably going to do something like that. And so I think that was a big deal. It was a big test of kind of my faith and calling to say, am I willing to stay where it's difficult, kind of through the time that it's difficult? So anyway, there you go.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
I am too. I'm glad you're here. Greg, I've chosen willingly to give several things for new, healthier things. Scrooge tendencies for generosity, glass half empty for glass overflowing. The Holy Spirit has been working overtime, and I'm sure rolls his eyes regularly thinking so much work to do. And I'm sure that's the case for all of us, but I think that's awesome. I think that for all of us, hopefully there are those aspects and attributes in us to go, oh man, here's something that I just know needs to get worked out in me. And it doesn't mean that God doesn't want you to have a personality or to be yourself. He does, but what does it mean to be the most sanctified self of us, right? To be in modern terms, we say the best version of ourselves, the most connected to Jesus. So,
well, and I don't know if Becky's watching this morning, but I'm sure she would have chimed in and would have said dying to her pride and letting that go, which is not just a Becky thing. I think that's all of us.
Right.
When we allow our pride to get in the way of God's plans,
we get busy. That's what I heard this weekend.
Yeah.
PMLB.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Phil makes life better.
Nope, not what that means. Definitely not.
Heard it here first.
All right, so then we're going to get to this big moment in the life of Elijah. That's happened. He does the stuff. He finally follows Elijah. And it says, now when the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven by a whirlwind, you're like, wait, what? Not dying, not going in the grave, literally just ascending into heaven, which is wild.
Which is almost unheard of, because normally in the Old Testament, when we hear about someone passing away, it is that they are going down to Sheol,
right? Not
up to heaven.
Yep. So Sheol, the Hebrew word for the grave.
Elijah
and Elisha were on their way from Gilgal, and Elijah said to Elisha, and you're like, that seems difficult to keep those straight. It is. Please stay here, for the Lord has sent me as far as Bethel. But Elisha said, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. So they went down to Bethel, and some of the prophets who were in Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, do you not know that today the Lord will take away your master from over you? And he said, yes, I know it. Keep quiet. Elijah said to him, Elisha, please stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Jericho. But he said, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave. Where did it go? There you go. I will not leave you. So they came to Jericho. The sons of the prophets who were at Jericho drew near to Elijah and said to him, do you know that today the Lord will take away your master from over you? And he said, yes, I know. Keep quiet. Then Elijah said to him, please stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Jordan. But he said, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live. I feel like at some point he gives me like,
I get it.
You get it, bro. I will not leave you. So the two of them went on. 50 men of the sons of the prophets also went and stood at some distance from them, as they both were standing by the Jordan. Then Elijah took his cloak and rolled it up and struck the water, and the water was parted to the one side and to the other, till the two of them could walk over on dry ground. This seems like a familiar scene. When they crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, ask what I shall do for you before I am taken from you. And Elijah said, please let there be a double portion of your spirit on me. And he said, you have asked a hard thing, yet if you see me as I am being taken from you, it shall be so for you. But if you do not see me, it shall not be so. And they still went on and talked. Behold, chariots of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them. And Elijah went up by the whirlwind into heaven. And Elijah saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen. And he saw him no more. Then he took hold of his own clothes and tore them in two pieces. And he took up the cloak of Elijah that had fallen from him and went back and stood on the bank of the Jordan. Then he took the cloak of Elijah that had fallen from him and struck the water, saying, where is the Lord, the God of Elijah? And he went, and when he had struck the water was parted to the one side and to the other, and Elisha went over. So pretty crazy scene, right? This is very, very unique in the entire Bible for Elijah to kind of have his legacy and faith sort of like come to this point, right? As you're thinking about that, Becky said, there have been people in my life that I had to get that I had to be given up to follow Jesus. And not that I don't miss the people, but really I don't miss the dysfunctional relationships that came with those people. The other thing that I've given up is the heavy burden of trying to fit into this world. It was a relief when Jesus showed me that I don't belong here. And yes, Lisa, the death of my pride is an ongoing death, like layers of a pride onion that makes my eyes water, and lets me know where the paper cuts are. Yeah, I think that's a great metaphor, right? That's just what the depths of dying to yourself do is you're like, I think I got it. And I think, just over time, whether it's a season of life or a situation or God's sort of bringing that to your awareness, I think it can be deeply, deeply painful. Becoming a parent was kind of like that. I was like, I am so selfish.
Oh, I know. I was first when I got married, and then when we had our kids, I was like, oh, I'm just a horrible human being.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Anyway, so as we look at Elijah and Elisha, break it down for us. What are we walking into with them?
Yeah, so we're really walking along with them. They're on the road, and Elijah knows that he's about ready to pass. And this is like you said, this is very unique. This is the only instance, aside from Jesus, where we see someone just being taken up into heaven
in ascension. Mm-hmm.
Yes. There's a scene with Moses and God where Moses dies and God buries him, but he's not ascended into heaven like this. And so this is a very, very unique moment that Elijah is a part of, and then Elisha gets to witness. And so they know what's coming, sort of, and they're on their way. And over and over again, Elijah keeps telling Elisha to stay here. And first he says, because God's sending me to Bethel. Then he says, God's sending me to Jericho. And then he says, God's sending me to the Jordan. And so there are these different places. And if you dig into those locations, they all have a unique and a kind of an important relevance in the history of Israel. But over and over again, Elisha replies, I will not leave you. And there is this devotion to Elijah, to his master. When he finally sees Elijah being taken up into the clouds, he cries out, my father, my father. And he's not talking to God. He is talking to Elijah, who was his mentor.
Yeah. And obviously, like Elisha clearly does not appear ready for Elijah to be gone. He wasn't like, hey, dude, you done yet?
Yeah, can I have that cloak now?
Let's get this. So they had what appears to be a really good relationship in which he was really genuinely wanting him to stay. But both of them kind of know what's about to happen. They don't, like they've never experienced this before. They've never seen this before. But it feels like God has revealed it, at least to Elijah potentially. And then he told Elisha, maybe both of them. We don't get that part of the story. Right. But like neither one of them is about to be surprised. And so we see two things take place, right? One is sort of this tour through the greatest hits of Israel and God's faithfulness to Israel over and over and over again to kind of like project out even now, thousands of years later, that when we reread it, it's like, oh, God was faithful to Israel. Here's all these places that God was faithful to Israel for. And then when you jump over into the New Testament, the same thing happens. And then when you think about your own life, hopefully the same thing happens if you're a follower of Jesus. So I asked the question in the chat, where are the physical places from your past that remind you of God's faithfulness? Because I think it's a thing we don't do a lot, but I think it's actually really valuable to remember back and go, man, what were those contexts where I go, man, God was just so faithful. And I got a feeling that even just kind of strolling down memory lane for you would be faith building. So think about that. Drop it in the chat if you can think about it. So as you're doing that, then finally Elijah says to Elisha, what can I do for you? Like, going away gift. What do you want?
Right.
What does he ask for?
And so he says, please let there be, this is in verse 9, please let there be a double portion of your spirit on me. And Elijah responds, you have asked a hard thing. And so we just talked about remembering, right? I'm sure there was a moment in Elijah's heart where he was just remembering the drought. He was remembering sacrificing 450 prophets of Baal. He was remembering being in hiding and not having enough and relying on a widow to provide for him, and remembering running away from Jezebel, and remembering, right? He had a really hard life. We saw last week where he is actually hiding under a tree, begging God to take his life. Like, he just couldn't do it anymore. And so here, Elisha is asking not just for the same, but for more. And what this actually would mean to the Israelite community of the time as they're reading this would be what the oldest son would have received as an inheritance from his father. But instead of asking for land or property or wealth, what he's asking for is the Holy Spirit, this power of God.
Spiritual power, which is like an awesome prayer request. And also, when's the last time we did that? Like, when's the last time we're like, you know, God, I need greater spiritual power today. I need a deeper connection to the Holy Spirit to be able to get me through this conversation, this challenge, to walk in faithfulness through this temptation. Like, I think that Elisha clearly understood that what God had done in the life of Elijah was not just Elijah. Like, it was this work of God in his life. And if it was going to continue to the next generation, to Elisha, it wasn't just that Elisha was going to need the example of Elijah. It wasn't just that he was going to need kind of the same level. He's like, I need even more than he had. Like, I think the gap is bigger.
And I think it's interesting because, I mean, I look at suffering and I'm like, nope, I will piece out of that as quickly as possible. And Elisha is saying, not only am I going to step into it, but I know that I'm going to be stepping into even more. And so I will require more to get through that, to endure that. The interesting thing too, then, I think, is if we point forward to Jesus with his disciples, they don't ask for it, but he gives them more than what they need, knowing that they are going to, or I guess more than what they would think they needed, because he knows what they are going to have.
Well, the New Testament, it says that in Jesus, we actually have more than we could ask, think, or even imagine, right? Like that. It's never like whether or not the spiritual power isn't available. It's whether or not we're abiding, staying connected to Jesus, and actually using it. I think a lot of times, like, if you've ever had a buddy, I had friends like this in high school where some of us street raced our cars. Don't tell anybody. And then some people, they had really nice, really fast cars, but they drove them like grandmas, which hindsight was very wise. But it always felt like a huge waste, because you were like, your car is like in amazing condition and it could go so fast, and you're doing 5 under the speed limit. What are we doing right now? And I think there's a lot of us as followers of Jesus where, like, we have a Hemi-powered Holy Spirit inside of us going like, man, you got more to give. You got more that you could connect to me in. And we're like, yeah, but I'm in a school lane, like I gotta slow down. And we've been doing that for a really long time. So Greg says, God loving me enough to tear me down to raw materials and build me back up where I am so far. Painful experience, but he said, you're not getting it. Let's try this instead. And I'm sure I've told this story, that the way that gold gets purified, right, is that it is essentially just remelted over and over and over again. And along the way, the imperfections are being filtered out. And that process, I would imagine, is probably not a very fun one for the gold that's being melted down. And for us, like, I think that is a spiritual principle that we will then get melted down again on the other side of that failure, on the other side of that disappointment, on the other side of that sin. And God's going, I'm not done with you. I'm just working on some more imperfections that we didn't get out last time. And then, what does Philippians say? He's faithful. He will continue to finish the work that he started in us until the day that he actually returns or we return to him.
And that's such a good illustration. If you've ever seen raw gold, it's not beautiful at all. It just looks like a rock.
Yep.
And when you go through that melting process over and over and over again, I read a thing, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it was actually silver, because silver goes through the same process. But somebody asked, like, when do you know that the silver is ready? And he said, when I can see my reflection in it. And so you think about that, God is melting us down, and he is getting rid of those imperfections in us and through us. And he's doing it over and over and over again. And the process is a long process, a lifelong process. We've talked about sanctification several times. That's that process of being melted and then purified. And then when God is seeing more of himself reflected in you, there's that idea that that we're ready to die.
Right. Well, and how many of us, like, we go, God, I just need this thing, and I need this thing, and I need this thing, and I want more, and I just need to achieve. When in reality, it feels like the biblical principle is more like, oh, actually, this is going to be a lot of like addition by subtraction.
Yes.
Like, I know you think external circumstances and stuff is going to get you across the finish line, but it's actually going to be me hitting some deletes in your life around some pain, some trauma, some patterns, some wrong thoughts. Like, I'm going to be working on that for a long time. And over time, we get to walk closer and closer with Jesus because of it.
Paul David Tripp's New Morning Mercies, if you're reading that with us this mornings, he was talking about grace and how we think grace is one thing. And it is. It is absolutely getting or not getting what you deserve. But it is also, or is it getting what you don't deserve?
Getting what you don't
getting
deserve.
What you don't deserve. Mercy,
undeserved favor.
Yeah.
Mercy is not getting what you do deserve.
Right. But he was saying sometimes grace actually shows up as transformative. And so what does it look like for us to ask God for transformative grace and to recognize that sometimes his grace is exactly what we need because he's working out those